First contact and assessment. The Galactic Council's diplomatic vessel emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system on a quiet Tuesday morning. Unlike the sci-fi movies humans had created for decades, there was no dramatic reveal. Just a silent, elegant ship that appeared on Earth's deep space monitoring systems with minimal fanfare. Dr. Elena Reyes was hunched over her workstation at NASA's Deep Space Communication Array when the first anomalous readings appeared on her screen. At 36, Elena had already revolutionized quantum communication theory twice, earning her both a Nobel Prize and the nickname, the Signal Whisperer, among her colleagues. "That's not a natural phenomenon," she muttered, adjusting her glasses as she studied the incoming data. The energy signature was too perfect, too controlled. Someone's knocking. Within hours, every major intelligence and space agency on Earth was operating at maximum alert. 24 hours later, the alien ship had positioned itself in a stable orbit around Earth's moon and had sent a single crystal-clear message in perfect English. "People of Earth, we are representatives of the Galactic Council of Allied Species. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations. Please designate a meeting location and representation team." The United Nations convened an emergency session, and within days, a response was prepared. The world's governments, setting aside their differences in the face of this unprecedented situation, agreed to host the aliens in Geneva, Switzerland, historically neutral ground. Elena wasn't supposed to be part of the diplomatic team. Her expertise was in communications and quantum physics, not international relations. But when the delegates from the Galactic Council requested technical representatives, her name rose to the top of every list. "I don't do diplomacy," Elena protested to her superior, NASA Director Hamlin. "You don't need to," Hamlin replied, sliding a tablet toward her with her travel details. "You just need to understand what they're saying beneath what they're saying. Nobody reads between the lines better than you." When the alien delegation arrived in Geneva, humanity collectively held its breath. The 7 representatives who emerged from their shuttle were humanoid but distinctly alien. Tall, slender beings with iridescent skin in various hues of blue and green, 4-fingered hands, and eyes that seemed to shift color with their emotions. Their leader introduced himself as High Ambassador Trellix of the Galactic Council. "We have been observing your species for some time," he announced during the first formal meeting. "Your technological progress is impressive for such a young spacefaring race." The words were diplomatic, but Elena detected something in the translator's tone. Subtle condescension, perhaps even pity. Over the next week, the aliens shared information about the wider galaxy. The Galactic Council comprised over 300 species across thousands of star systems. They maintained peace, facilitated trade, and most importantly, coordinated defense against various cosmic threats. It was during a technical briefing that the true purpose of their visit became clear. "Your system lies at the edge of what we call the Sentinel Zone," explained Solara, the Council's defense attaché. Her skin rippled with patterns of deep blue as she activated a holographic display showing Earth's position relative to neighboring star systems. "This region has recently seen increased activity from the void harvesters." The hologram shifted to show menacing, crystalline entities that move through space like a swarm of locusts. They consume planetary resources, particularly water, carbon, and rare minerals. Earth would be appetizing to them. Elena studied the data on the void harvesters. "You're saying Earth is in danger?" "Precisely," Trellix nodded. "Which brings us to the purpose of our visit. The Council offers protection to developing worlds in exchange for reasonable resource contributions and technology sharing agreements." The UN Secretary-General leaned forward. "What kind of protection and what kind of contributions?" "We would station a defensive fleet in your system," Trellix explained smoothly. "In exchange, we request mining rights to 30% of your lunar resources, 15% of Earth's rare minerals, and access to your freshwater reserves." The room erupted in whispers and objections. "That's highway robbery. muttered Director Hamlin beside Elena. Ambassador Trellix raised his four-fingered hand. Before you respond, we would like to assess your current defensive capabilities. Perhaps your technology is more advanced than our initial scans indicated. The next 3 days involved tours of Earth's space agencies, military facilities, and satellite command centers. Elena accompanied the alien delegation through NASA, explaining humanity's current space capabilities. With each demonstration, the alien skin patterns displayed what Elena now recognized as disappointment or even mild amusement. Your species has achieved much with primitive technology, Celera commented while examining the plans for Earth's most advanced spacecraft. But I must be direct. Your defensive capabilities are virtually non-existent by galactic standards. We've focused on peaceful exploration, Elena replied, bristling slightly. Peace is a luxury of the protected, Celera said. The Void Harvesters do not recognize diplomatic immunity. On the final day of assessment, the Council representatives delivered their verdict to the assembled world leaders. Your world has much potential, Trellix announced, but faces imminent danger. Our scans show Harvester scout ships already entering nearby systems. Without a proper defensive fleet, Earth will be vulnerable within one standard galactic cycle, approximately 3 Earth months. He tapped a crystal device, projecting the terms of the Council's protection agreement. We can station a mid-sized defensive fleet here beginning immediately. In exchange for this protection, we require the resource access previously discussed, plus technological exchange rights. The Secretary-General frowned. These terms would cripple Earth's economy and independence. Surely there's room for negotiation. There is always room for negotiation, Trellix smiled, though his skin darkened to a deep indigo. But physics and military reality are not negotiable. The Harvesters are coming, and without a fleet, you cannot defend yourselves. As the diplomats argued, Elena sat quietly, her mind racing. The Council's assessment was based on their understanding of space warfare, massive ships, energy weapons, and conventional thinking about defense. But humanity had never approached problems from conventional angles. That night, in an emergency session with world leaders, military strategists, and top scientists, Elena finally spoke up. They're judging us by their standards, she said, interrupting a heated debate about resource allocations. They think in terms of fleets because that's all they know. Dr. Reyes, the U.S. President responded, the aliens have shown us the threat model. We've seen their defensive technologies. What alternative do you suggest? Elena smiled for the first time since the aliens had arrived. Something they won't see coming, because they don't think like we do. She approached the holographic display and began to outline her idea. As she spoke, the room fell silent. That's impossible, said the Russian defense minister. It's insane, added the Chinese premier. It's human, Elena replied, and it's our best shot. When Ambassador Trellix and his delegation arrived the next morning expecting Earth's capitulation, they were met instead with a counterproposal. We appreciate the Council's offer, the Secretary-General stated formally, but Earth would like to demonstrate an alternative defensive approach before signing any agreements. Trellix's skin flashed with patches of surprise. What alternative? Our scans show no fleet capable of repelling even a Harvester scout force. We don't need a conventional fleet, Elena said, stepping forward. We request 2 weeks to implement our solution, followed by a practical demonstration. The aliens conferred among themselves before Trellix responded. Very well, 2 weeks. But when your demonstration fails, and it will, you must accept our original terms, plus a 10% increase in resource requirements for wasting our time. And if we succeed? Elena asked. Trellix's skin rippled with amusement. Then the Council will reconsider Earth's status and protection requirements. As the delegation departed, Director Hamlin turned to Elena. You'd better be right about this. Elena watched the alien shuttle ascend toward their mothership. I am. They expect us to fight like they do. But humanity has always survived by changing the rules of the game. Across the globe, scientists, engineers, and military personnel began working around the clock. Elena's plan was ambitious, unprecedented, and represented humanity's only hope of maintaining independence in a galaxy more dangerous than anyone had imagined. High above Earth, aboard the Council vessel, Trellix reviewed the sensor data with his team. "They're launching hundreds of small satellites," Solara reported. "Primitive technology, no weapons capabilities. This demonstration will be disappointing." "Perhaps," Trellix replied, his skin shifting thoughtfully. "But there's something about these humans that troubles me. They seem too confident for a species facing extinction." As Earth prepared its response, the first Void Harvester scout ship entered the solar system, exactly as the Council had predicted. The clock was ticking. Humanity's response. 2 weeks passed in a flurry of global cooperation, unlike anything humanity had ever achieved. Nations that had been enemies for generations now shared resources, technology, and personnel. Space agencies worked around the clock, launching hundreds of small satellites into carefully calculated orbits. Dr. Elena Reyes hadn't slept more than 3 hours at a stretch during the entire period. She moved between mission control centers around the world, coordinating the implementation of what was now called Project Tessera. The name had been suggested by a junior engineer, Tessera being the individual tiles that make up a mosaic. From orbit, the Galactic Council representatives watched with a mixture of confusion and pity. "They continue to deploy these primitive satellites," reported Solara to Ambassador Trellix. "No weapons, minimal propulsion capabilities, basic communication systems. This is their great defense." Trellix studied the data with growing concern. There must be something we're missing. No species facing extinction would waste resources on useless technology. On the morning of the demonstration, the Council's diplomatic shuttle once again landed in Geneva. This time, they were met by a smaller reception. Just Elena, Director Hamlin, and key representatives from the world's space agencies and military forces. "We are prepared to witness your demonstration," Ambassador Trellix announced without preamble. "Though I remind you of the terms should you fail." "We remember," Elena replied calmly. "Please, join us at the Global Defense Coordination Center." The Council representatives were led into a converted underground facility filled with screens displaying the positions of Earth's new satellite network. Over 2,000 small devices now orbited the planet in a complex, seemingly random pattern. "Impressive coordination," Solara admitted. "But these are not defensive platforms. They carry no weapons, no shield generators." Elena smiled. "We never said they were weapons." Director Hamlin stepped forward. "Ambassador Trellix, we've detected a Void Harvester scout ship entering our system, exactly as you predicted. With your permission, we'd like to use this actual threat for our demonstration." Trellix's skin pulsed with alarm. "That is extremely dangerous. Scout ships are still capable of significant planetary damage." "We're aware of the risks," Elena said, "but we'd rather prove our system against a real threat than a simulation." After a brief consultation with his team, Trellix reluctantly agreed. "Very well, but we will maintain our ship in position to intervene if your defense fails. We have no desire to see your world harmed, even if you reject our protection." On the main display, a visualization showed the Harvester ship's approach. It was smaller than the Council's diplomatic vessel, but still massive by human standards. A crystalline structure nearly half a kilometer long that seemed to shift and reconfigure itself as it moved. "The Harvester has detected Earth and is accelerating," announced a technician. "Estimated time to weapon range, 17 minutes. Elena moved to a control station. Initiate Tessera protocol. Quantum link activation sequence." Around the world, engineers and scientists confirmed readiness. One by one, the thousands of small satellites began to power up, not with conventional weapons, but with quantum entanglement devices based on Elena's research. "What are you doing?" Solara demanded, her skin flashing with confusion. "Changing the rules," Elena replied. In space, the pattern of satellites suddenly made sense. They weren't randomly positioned. They formed a three-dimensional lattice surrounding Earth, each satellite positioned with mathematical precision relative to its neighbors. Phase 1 complete, reported a technician. Quantum field stabilizing. On the displays, lines of energy began to form between the satellites, creating a web-like structure that encompassed the planet. Fascinating, murmured one of the council scientists. They're generating some kind of cohesive field using quantum entanglement principles. The harvester continued its approach, apparently unconcerned by Earth's defense network. It doesn't perceive your satellites as a threat, Trellix observed. And rightly so. Even with this field, you cannot stop its approach or weapons. We don't intend to stop it, Elena said. We intend to redirect it. As the harvester crossed the threshold of the outer satellite layer, Elena gave the command. Activate Phase 2, Space-Time Manipulation Sequence. What happened next astonished even the council representatives. The quantum field between the satellites began to warp visibly, creating a distortion in the fabric of space-time itself. The harvester ship, caught in this field, suddenly slowed its approach. Impossible, Solara whispered. They're creating localized gravitational lensing with that primitive technology. Not primitive, Elena corrected. Just different. We don't need massive ships or conventional weapons. We've learned to manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe with minimal energy input. The harvester, now recognizing the threat, attempted to bring its weapons to bear. But the distortion field increased in intensity, warping space around the crystalline vessel. Field integrity at 94% and holding, called out a technician. Execute Phase 3, Elena ordered. The satellite network shifted its configuration, the quantum links between them pulsing with energy. The space-time distortion around the harvester intensified, creating a bubble of warped reality. What precisely are you doing to it? Trellix asked, his skin now showing patterns of both concern and admiration. We're creating a localized pocket of accelerated time, Elena explained. Inside that bubble, time is passing thousands of times faster than normal. The harvester is experiencing millennia in minutes. On the screen, the crystalline structure of the harvester began to change. Its movements slowed, then stopped entirely. Portions of its structure began to degrade and break down. You're aging it to death. Solara's voice contained unmistakable awe. Elena nodded. Entropy is universal. Even these harvesters can't escape the fundamental laws of physics. We're just accelerating the inevitable. Within minutes, the once threatening harvester had deteriorated into an inert mass of crystalline dust. The quantum field gently dispersed the remains, leaving no trace of the threat that had approached Earth. The room fell silent as the council representatives stared at the displays in disbelief. That's impossible, Solara finally said. Your technology shouldn't be capable of such manipulation. We took a different approach, Elena explained. Instead of building massive ships and weapons, we focused on understanding the fabric of reality itself. Each satellite contains a quantum processor that can entangle with others to create effects greater than the sum of their parts. Ambassador Trellix's skin had shifted to a deep purple, a sign of profound respect. Elena had learned. In all my cycles as a council representative, he said slowly, I have never witnessed a defense system like this. No fleet in the council's registry could have neutralized a harvester so efficiently, with zero collateral damage. Does this satisfy our demonstration requirements? Director Hamlin asked formally. Trellix exchanged glances with his delegation before responding. More than satisfy. The Council will need to completely reassess Earth's technological classification and potential alliance status. Later that evening, as the Council representatives prepared to return to their vessel, Ambassador Trellix requested a private meeting with Elena. Dr. Reyes, he began, his skin now a calm blue. I must confess that we severely underestimated humanity. A common mistake, Elena replied with a small smile. We're used to it. The Council believed your species needed protection and guidance. Trellix continued. We now see that what you truly offer is innovation. Your approach to defense, using minimal resources to maximum effect, could revolutionize galactic security. We did what humans have always done, Elena said. We adapted. We innovated. When faced with overwhelming force, we find ways to change the nature of the conflict. Trellix's skin rippled thoughtfully. The Council would like to propose a new agreement, not as protectors, but as equals. We offer full alliance membership, technology exchange on mutually beneficial terms, and joint defense initiatives. In return, we ask only for the opportunity to learn from your unique perspective. That, Elena said, extending her hand in the human gesture of agreement, sounds like the beginning of a beautiful friendship. As the Council ship departed Earth's orbit the following day, it left behind not a protection fleet, but the first diplomatic delegation of a new era. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through overwhelming force, but through ingenuity, creativity, and the uniquely human talent for finding solutions where others saw only problems. The aliens had come expecting to find a primitive species in need of protection. They left having discovered something far more valuable. A civilization that didn't need a fleet to defend itself, because it had something much more powerful: human ingenuity. In the monitoring stations across Earth, scientists and military personnel watched as the Galactic Council sent a new message to all spacefaring species in the region. The solar system, home of humanity, is now under the protection of the Tessera Array. All vessels approach with caution and peaceful intent. The humans are not to be underestimated.